What's going on, guys? It is Schmeat back here, and you might be wondering why I want to talk about Nic Batum, of all people, when we have LaMelo, when we have P.J. Washington, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, Devontae Graham, and I decided to talk about an ex-Hornet that robbed us of $120 million. Yes, I want to talk about him because I think what he's doing is remarkable, and I've been doing a little research, but I decided not to make it like a spewing information at you video because I don't think that's the type of guy I am. I'm a new guy with my haircut. No, but like I just like talking like this and like a casual conversation about Nic Batum, of all people. And now we're going to get into it because I think it's overlooked what happened in Charlotte, and now what's happening in Los Angeles is really overlooked. So yeah, let's talk about it. So we signed him in 2016 offseason. That offseason was full of overpaid players. So looking back on it, I don't have this same... Like, I did a little research before this video, and I was like, okay, why do we pay him this much money? He did have a couple good years in Portland, none that would warrant a $120 million contract for 5 years. I believe it was like 12 points and 5.5 rebounds on decent efficiency through like 2010 to 2015. He had like 5 good seasons. He wasn't this like all-star player that we just picked up in free agency, which I understand the overpay on two different fronts. First, it was the 2016 off season with the salary cap going up. That means organizations are paying more people more money. A little like couple people that I remember getting paid a bunch of money was Chandler Parsons, Miles Plumlee got paid a lot, Kent Bazemore, Alan Crabb. There's one more. Ryan Anderson got like an $80 million deal. So there's a lot of good players a lot of bad players that got paid good money. And Nic Batum was one of them. And all those players that I mentioned had contracts that were under $100 million. But we decided to give him $120 million. And it was kind of a rough move. Even at the time that happened, I remember there was backlash at the start. But there was also an understanding that we got to get Kemba some help. Kemba, at the time of the 2016 offseason, was really blossoming into a star. I don't know if he made an All-Star. I'm trying to remember if he made an All-Star game before the 2016 season. But he was really showing signs of progress, and Kemba was already, 27 at that point. Nic Batum was, I think, the same age as Kemba. So I get the idea of it, and then I also get the overpay because Charlotte, you got to face it. They're going to have to overpay for every star that they want to get. You saw that with Gordon Hayward, paying him $100 million for 4 years, 25, or no, how many? Because we're paying him $30 million a year. I think we gave him a $90 million deal worth 3 years. I forget. It's one of the two. We overpaid for Terry. It's not seeming as much as an overpay as what it was. But you get the idea that if we want to sign a free agent player, it doesn't even have to be a star. Say we sign Rashard Holmes in free agency, it's going to be an overpay. That's just the reality of being a small market team and not having the luxury of a decent location like Miami or Los Angeles or even the Golden State Warriors, or just being a big market team like the Chicago Bulls. We don't have that luxury. Even the Knicks, a big market team. We're a small market team, so a free agent, if he wants to come with us, it's going to be for the money. It's not going to be for location, even though Charlotte's a great place to live. It's not going to be for endorsements because it's a small market team. You're not going to get as much exposure as you are going to the Knicks or I guess the Nets are starting to be a better big market team. They're still smaller than the Knicks, obviously. The Knicks are up there, and I think they're worth $3 or $4 billion. I know they're worth the most in the NBA right now, but regardless, that's two reasons why we had to overpay for him in general, and that overpay didn't seem too bad, honestly. Going into the next two seasons, the 2016 or 2017 playoffs, we did push the Miami Heat to 7 games, and Nic Batum, he wasn't a major part of that because we were riding the back of Kemba for most of that season and most of the offseason, but he did play a role on that team. I believe he averaged 15 or so points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists in the first 2 seasons in Charlotte. But after that, I think everybody knows the idea behind it is that he just fell off. Whether that was because of his past injuries, because I did look it up, he had a 2017 injury, a torn ligament in his hand or something. But I don't think it was injuries. I don't think it was just his age, because you realize right now he's doing some crazy shit for the Clippers at 31 years old, and he was only 28 at this point. So I don't think it was age. I just think it was simply the Hornets organization realizing that it was an overpay from the start, and 2 seasons in, he's not making them, a second round playoff team, which I think was the major hope. Maybe even more than that at the time. I'm not sure what was going on in ownership's head, because I'm not in the ownership rooms that they're talking about these decisions. But I think it mostly has to deal with the ownership and how they viewed Nic Batum after those 2 seasons. Although he did have a good 2 seasons, and he played a little bit more on his 3rd season in the 5-year contract. After the 3rd season, going into the 2019-2020 season, it was sad. There started to come out with different articles of him quoting that he doesn't think he's going to be part of the future of this team, which is understandable when you're getting benched for the whole season. And it was just disappointing that season. I'm talking about last season, 2019-2020 season, where he played at 10 games, 15 games. He only started 3 games when we were really injured. It was just sad, and there was a quote that came out, another quote that said he was the highest paid cheerleader. And I forgot to mention this at the start, but that 5-year, $120 million deal that he signed made him the highest paid, not only the highest paid Charlotte Hornet, but the highest paid Charlotte pro sports athlete of all time. Of all time. We're talking about the Cam Newtons of the world. I don't know anything about hockey, but I'm betting they had. I think the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't think they're from Charlotte though, but they might fall into this category. But nobody from their team in history, not Larry Johnson, not Raymond Felton that used to play for us. He is the highest paid Charlotte Hornet and Charlotte pro sports athlete of all time, which was just a crazy stat that I found out. And, from that contract, let's go on with the story. He didn't play last season at all. We had to buy him out. He had $27 million left on his deal. $27 million. And we bought him out. It's not as bad as like Blake Griffin, which has $75 million left on his deal, but that's still a lot of money. That's that's 1 year of a max contract player money. And we still have to pay him, and we stretched it out for 2 seasons, so we pay him $13 million this season, and then $13 million for the next season, then he's off the books for us. But this is where it gets interesting, and this is where I realized that he might have played. He didn't really play us because the ownership wanted to play younger guys. They realized there was a cap in his potential and that he already reached. But it's really interesting seeing him on the Clippers. He signed for a veteran minimum, what he was worth. But he is worth way more to the Clippers roster than I think anybody would have predicted ever. It is insane to me. We played him a couple games this year that I've reacted to and then rewatched the games after. And just seeing him out there. And I want to emphasize this point that I love seeing him happy, and that he didn't seem like he was enjoying basketball in the slightest the last 2 or so seasons he was with us. And to see him actually enjoy basketball and actually making a difference again for a roster that's competing is really nice to me. He did spend 5 or 6 years with us. So it's not like I hate him or anything. He just stole $120 million from us. That's the first thing. The second thing is he's a good player. I didn't realize that. I thought when he was going into the Clippers organization, I thought it was for purely a leadership role in the locker room. You realize the Clippers have many struggles in the locker room. I mean, they have Patrick Beverley, but what is he going to do? They just brought in Rajon Rondo to be a leadership guy because Kawhi, there's different leaders, right? There's a lead by example, which is Kawhi, and there's a verbal leader, and they don't really have that. That's why they brought in, that's why they have Patrick Beverley, Rajon Rondo, and that's why I thought Nic Batum was going in there, is to be a leadership role, a veteran leader in the locker room. But he's been way more than that, and it surprised the hell out of me. 3 and D, good efficiency, 8 points a game. I know I'm saying 8 points a game like it's a big deal, but for Nic Batum, it is a big deal. And it's not like he's doing 8 points in 12 minutes and it's in 27 minutes. So you got to realize that it's not the most insane stats, but for Nic Batum, it means the world. Because 8 points a game on a championship level team like the Clippers is insane to me. Coming from a guy who didn't play, he was getting DNPs for the whole year. It's insane. That's the video. That's Nic Batum in a nutshell. And yeah, I'll see you guys later.